This video is for writing linear equations. So we're going to write equations from graphs today. So step one is to identify the slope and the y-intercept from the graph. So remember, when you're finding the y-intercept, it's where your line and your y-axis meet. It's the point at which they meet. And so on this graph, that point is right there. So the slope would be 2 because that point is 0, 2. So you take the y-coordinate. And then to find the slope, you're going to do rise over run. So you need to find two nice, pretty points. And so for this one, we can use the y-intercept again. So that's 0, 2. And then we're going to use 2, 5. You can also stick this in your calculator and do linear regression if you can find two nice, pretty points. So if we do rise over run here, I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to run 1, 2. So my slope here would be 3 over 2. And then step 2 is write the equation in slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So our equation is always going to start with y equals. M is our slope, so 3/2 x, and then our y-intercept is a positive 2, so it would be plus 2. Again, you can do this with linear regression on your calculator. You just need to find two nice pretty points that are on perfect intersections. All right, so here's some more graphs. So again, always find the y-intercept first. That will kind of help you. So in the first graph here, my y-intercept is at 0, -4. So I can look at these equations and I can say, well, my y-intercept is going to be -4, so it has to be one of those two equations. And then again, you can use rise over run to find your slope. And so there's two nice pretty points. So my rise would be 2 and my run would be 3. So my slope would be 2/3. So this is my equation because that's the only one that has the slope of 2/3 x and then -4 for the y-intercept. So on this next one, our y-intercept is at 0, -1. Oops, sorry, that's a -4. So again, I'm only left with one equation here that has -4 as my y-intercept, but you do want to go ahead and you want to check your slope. And one thing you can look at, this line, you should be able to tell by looking that it has a negative slope. It's going downhill. So again, you want to make sure that your slope is a negative. And then if I do rise over run, so again, two nice pretty points. So I'm going to use my y-intercept, and then I'm going to use 2, -8. So in this one, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you go down 4, it's a negative, and then I'm going to run 2. So my slope is -4 over 2, and if you simplify that, you get a -2. So I checked, and that equation does check out. Y equals -2x minus 4. That would be the appropriate equation for that line. All right, so we've already used these two slopes, so we can eliminate those. Now, on graphs like this, if you notice, it goes through the origin nice and pretty. So I automatically know that my y-intercept is going to be 0. So my equation is not going to have a y-intercept. So this equation here and this equation here, neither of them have a y-intercept. Again, you should be able to tell by looking that this slope is negative, but go ahead and check your slope. So two nice pretty points. So again, you're going to go down 3, so that's a -3, and you're going to run 4. So your slope here is -3 over 4, and so this would be the equation that I need. So my slope is -3/4 x. My y-intercept is 0, so I don't need to add the plus 0. All right, on this next graph, our y-intercept is up here at a +5. And so we've only got one equation here that's got a +5 as my y-intercept. But again, always check your work. Always go back and look. So my other nice pretty point is at here 1, 1. So to do rise over run, you're going to go down 4. So if you go down, it's a negative. And you're going to run 1. So -4 over 1 is your slope. If you simplify, you get a -4. So y equals negative 4. Put your slope first, then tack the x onto the end. And we said our y-intercept was at 5, so plus 5. So that was the correct slope and y-intercept for that line. All right, our last two. So these are the equations that we've used. All right, so right here's my y-intercept on this graph. So my y-intercept is at 0, negative 5. Again, we've only got one option with that, but let's check the slope. So another nice pretty point is at 2, negative 6. So to do rise over run, I go down 1 and I run 2. So my slope is negative 1/2. So all our equations, linear equations this year, start with y equals. My slope is negative 1/2. Tack the x on, and then my y-intercept here is negative 5, so instead of putting plus 5, we're going to put minus 5. So that is the right equation there. And I'm only left with one equation. Still check. It goes to the origin, so my y-intercept is 0. If I do rise over run, I'm going to go up 3 over 1. So that simplifies to 3. So my equation for this line would just be simply y equals 3x.